In today's video, we're going to talk about when things aren't going well in your classroom, you should do this. You know, in every single classroom, it doesn't matter how great a teacher you are, everybody experiences those moments where the wheels are wobbling and it seems like the learning is not happening and the classroom is not literally on fire, but it feels like it's on fire, right? When that happens in the classroom, typically we've heard strategies like teach louder or teach through it, which I think are great adages, kind of old school. And what I want to share with you today is a whole different methodology about actually stopping the instruction and doing something completely different. So before I share that wisdom, let me tell you where this story comes from. I love this conversation. It actually occurred on my podcast. If you haven't checked it out, it's the Relationship Centered Learning Podcast. And this episode is going to include teacher Maureen Polero in Oregon City, Oregon. Maureen dropped a dime on me in this podcast, and I was just blown away how simple she made this. She said, you know, sometimes I have behavioral challenges and it makes it hard for learning. And instead of just teaching through it or teaching louder or doing something different, the first thing she does is she stops instruction. And I thought this was powerful because I'm like, what? She stops instructions. And the first thing that she does, much like if we were on fire. And I love this because if you're on fire, everybody knows that you should what? Stop, drop and roll. Yes. And isn't it funny how we all know that? I don't know because I don't know if I ever learned that in the classroom or where I learned it, but isn't it funny how we all know that phrase? So following along with that, we're not going to stop, drop and roll. What she teaches us is a valuable lesson that I want to share with you today. We want to stop and we either want to ramp up, revisit, or reteach routines and relationships. And I'm like, what? And she's like, Kevin, every time I feel like the classroom is just becoming discombobulated and the kids are not learning and the environment's not conducive, she said, the first thing I do is I stop teaching and I either ramp up, revisit, or reteach routines and relationships. And I thought, wow, that is so profound because no one ever shared this wisdom with me as a teacher. And I struggled through teaching some of those hard lessons. And I just started noticing a shift. And so what I learned from the podcast, I started to transform to the classrooms. You cannot believe how many teachers have said the most valuable information you gave me this year was to stop teaching and either ramp up, revisit, or reteach routines and relationships. It gets us back into regulation. Our minds are calmed down. We're able to take a kind of a break in itself. And the fact that we teach connections before content, it feeds right into the pattern that teachers are always been successful with, which is connect before content. All she did was saying in the middle of that dumpster fire, don't just give up and don't just push the dumpster away. Stop. Reteach, ramp up, or revisit routines and relationships. And I think that will be a game changer for you in the classroom. So what is a routine in a relationship? All a routine is, it's the structure of the classroom. So it's when they walk in, it's how they put up their backpacks, it's how they get their books, it's how they get started. Whatever that is, you have developed a routine in your classroom. And if you look at what happened and you kind of dissect maybe something that was leading up to this fire in the classroom, you may start to realize like we skipped over a part of the routine or we missed something today. So the first thing when I talk about routines, I'm just talking about go back and revisit the structures to your classroom because when you become discombobulated, the first thing you want to do is go back and how do we get back into that routine and that structure that a lot of our students are used to experiencing every single day. When I talk about relationships, all that's really doing is inferring that you can create a connection before you jump back into that instruction. So for us, that's that connection-driven classroom coursework that we're going to talk about 60-second relate breaks, 2-minute connections. We're going to create an opportunity that just takes a little bit of time, but sets the students up for success by creating a connection before you jump right back into that content. If you're ready to upgrade your classroom to more student engagement, less discipline problems and issues, then I'm going to encourage you to go to our website at ddiscipline.com.